Welcome to the 7 Habits for Setting and Achieving Godly Goals video training program. This is Dr. C once again, and today we're going to be in Chapter 4, which really is going over the 7 habits for setting and achieving godly goals. So let's start with a review of the 7 habits. Habit number 1 is reflection, which is a time to look back and remember God's faithfulness. Habit number 2 is selection, choosing the top themes for you to focus on. Habit number 3 is identification, and the identification of your spiritual gifts and your physical strengths and talents. Habit number 4 is description, or describing or defining your master goals. Habit number 5 is commitment, when we talk about wishing and wanting versus giving 100% full commitment. Habit number 6 is planning, and that is ensuring that we have the resources necessary to accomplish our goals. And finally, habit number 7 is accountability and the power of our partnerships. So let's get started. Here's habit number 1, and I'm going to talk about habit number 1, reflection, by sharing a personal story about looking back at God's faithfulness, at His resume, at His grace and His mercy in our lives. So back in August of 2002, it was a pretty tough time for me and my family. About a year previously, I had launched a new business, and it was not performing financially as well as we predicted, and we were forced to put our home up for sale. And now this home was not just any home. We loved this home. In fact, we prayed for this home. We really did. On Sunday afternoons after church, we'd grab a quick bite to eat, and then we'd drive through this neighborhood called Alta Vista. It was one of the best neighborhoods in the area. It had a picturesque long entrance. It was gated, and it was on a beautifully manicured golf course. And the homes seemed like mansions compared to the 2-bedroom apartment we lived in previously, or at the current time when we were looking for this home. So one Sunday in January 2000, as we were going through the neighborhood, we spotted a for sale sign at one of the homes, and we were so excited. Winnie and I quickly parked the car and grabbed the girls and ran inside, and we immediately fell in love. The landscaping was unbelievable. It was lush and green, and there were it seemed like dozens of huge palm trees and these beautiful Malibu lights that accented the beauty of the landscaping. It was really amazing, and it didn't take us long after walking into our home on 831 North Jensen to know that this was the one that we wanted. However, there was a problem. There was a couple other bids at the time, which wasn't uncommon for this neighborhood because it was so desirable. So we placed an offer that very day, and some other couples did as well, and we prayed that God would let us, if it was His will, would let our offer be the one that was accepted, and by His grace, a couple of days later, we got the news and the house was ours. So now let's fast forward from February 2000 to August 2002. And the for sale sign was once again on the lawn, but this time it wasn't the excitement we felt, but it was rather deep sadness, because we simply loved our home, we loved our neighborhood, we loved our friends, we loved everything about where we lived, and more importantly, we knew God gave us our home. And you see, this is where the rubber hits the road in our faith. Our circumstances don't quite match up with the desires, with our heart's desires, and we still have to trust that God knows what He's doing. And as difficult as it is thinking about, or was thinking about moving, we knew God had another plan. So with that, Winnie and I took the girls onto our front lawn, and we encircled the for sale sign holding hands, and we prayed. And we started our prayer by thanking God for allowing us to be in our home and enjoying it for the time that we did so much. We thanked Him for giving us wonderful neighbors and so many fun-filled memories. And then finally we prayed, Lord, You gave us this house, and now we give it back to You. And we went on to pray for the new homeowners, that they would love the home as much as we did. They would love our neighborhood as much as we did, and our friends as much as we did. And Winnie and I shared some serious tears that night. So our home was now officially up for sale. And at this time, this is the crazy part, at this time the homes in our neighborhood were selling quickly, usually just a couple of weeks or maybe a month or two at the most on the market. And if you recall, this was the period of time with one of the steepest growths in the California real estate market in history. In fact, in the 2 years since we purchased our home from that day in January 2000 to August 2002, our home went up $150,000 in value. And so our agent predicted our home would sell quickly because, it had a comfortable floor plan. We were on a beautiful corner lot. We had just a great home, and the market was selling quickly. So, our real estate agent predicted it would sell quickly, just like the other homes. Well, it didn't. Even though we had several showings, our home just wasn't selling. And the reason, this is what we were told. We were told that it had something to do with the fact that our German Shepherd named Jonah had destroyed our backyard landscaping. And it's actually the truth. And that, coupled with the fact that there were other homes in the neighborhood for sale, meant it wasn't worth the effort to redo our backyard landscaping. So 2 months later, we had to lower the price $20,000 because we just can't handle the financial stress anymore. We had just gone into what was called pre-foreclosure, and time was not our friend. So the Bible says that plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed. And so I took that verse, and it caused me to swallow my pride, be transparent with some close friends, and let them know what we were going through financially. And one of my dear friends that I respected very much asked me if I had any assets, anything else I can sell in order to maintain our home. And at first I really didn't think I had anything left to sell. And then after he asked me a couple more questions, we found that I did have an asset, and by God's grace and with His help, we were able to sell this asset and keep our home. Now, let's fast forward to from August 2002 to June 2006. Now, this time we put up our house for sale again, and it sold in 4 days. The selling price, over $300,000 more than we put it up on the market for in 2002. In total, our home appreciated over $500,000 in 6 years. Praise the Lord, absolutely indeed. Now, I share this story with you in full transparency for 2 reasons. First, God can do immeasurably more than we could have ever asked, hoped for, or imagined. That's one of my favorite verses, Ephesians 3:20. Secondly, when I look back and remember and reflect upon what God has done in my life and the life of my family, and I can share so many more stories about God's grace and His mercy and what He's done in our families' lives. I fully know without a doubt that nothing is impossible with God. Nothing. Matthew 19:26 is burned into my heart. Nothing is impossible with God. That means to me that there is no goal that, when coupled with God's grace and God's abilities and God's power, there's no goal that we should consider impossible for us to achieve, because with God all things are possible. So here's a picture of our beautiful girls right here, and there's Jonah, and we call Jonah our $300,000 dog. So listen, as we begin our quest to setting these and achieving these godly goals, let's start with habit 1, reflection. Now let's take some time to look back at our lives, our journey, and reflect upon the times when God has shown up so faithfully. And remember, if He did it back then, He can certainly do it again. So this exercise over here is really just a simple exercise. I call it the ABCs of reflection. So you got A's. The A is the accomplishment that you've achieved by God's grace. B are the blessings He's provided. And C are the challenges that He's helped you to overcome. So that's habit number 1. Time to look back and remember God's faithfulness. Now let's move on to habit number 2. Habit number 2 is what we call selection, or choosing the top themes to focus on. So now that we've looked back at God's faithfulness, right, and we've reflected, now it's time to select the goals that we want to achieve. And what we like to do is we like to take our goals and kind of put them around a theme. So I've shared with you that goal setting in our family has become a tradition for us. And one of the things that we found helpful is to make it an event, a time when you get together with your family. And what we would do is we would go out either on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, and we would set our goals for the year coming up. And I would prepare for this night for our family. I would seek a word from God, and as it related to that theme that we were going to rally around individually and as a family, And once gone to clarify, once we would clarify that theme, I would spend some time with God going over the details of how to incorporate that theme into our goals. So as my girls and I, my wife, we would get together and we would kind of look at this as a true word from God, and really saw it as an opportunity for God to utilize our family to accomplish that goal. And for me, it was one of the highlights of my year. And we've now done this probably 10 to 15 times, and it's always a joy. So here's what I thought I would do is I would show you some examples, and these are actual examples of the themes that God has given us as a family to incorporate into our goals over the past few years. So in 2008, the theme in 2008 was blessed. Okay, and the theme really was we are blessed to be a blessing to others, and in other words, to be a conduit and not a container for that blessing. So that's what God gave us in 2008. In 2009, the word was responsibility. The theme was responsibility, and the kind of the phrase was that the gateway to freedom is responsibility. And this is time when our girls were growing up and they had access to cell phones and things like that. So it was important for them to learn how to be more responsible, and they are tremendous girls. In 2012, it was significance. Shifting from success or me-centered to significance, other-centered was a theme for us. 2014, it was greatness. God created us to do great things for Him. He's called us to do great things. And remember when we talked about the goals and us going from, let me pull it back up, us going from where we are to our goals that we want to achieve. And remember we said we had these distractions, and then we said God has great goals for us, right? And we talked about Jim Collins' good to great. Well, that's what I'm talking about there, is that not that we were great in and of ourselves, but that God had great goals that He wanted us to achieve. In 2015, it was courage. And there were some things going on in our family's life, and God gave me the word courage. And it was the antidote for fear is courage, right? In 2016, it was remember. Because we had some things that happened in our lives in 2016 that were challenging, and so really that's what He gave me. Actually, that's what this came about. This reflection came from this theme right here. Remember God's resume. Remember He is faithful and He's worthy to be praised. Remember how good He's been. So as you get ready to incorporate habit number 2, selection, or selecting a theme for your goals, be sure that you seek God and His desire for you and for your family. And I promise you it'll be well worth your time. Once you select your theme or themes, spend some time sharing it with your friends or your family as to why it's important to you. And finally, it's helpful to have some scripture memory that you can kind of burn into your heart to encourage you during those tough times to keep that theme in place. So my hope is that God will clarify the things that He has for you and your family, and that you would be encouraged and strengthened by Him to achieve these goals for His glory. What I've done over here on this right side is I've just put some examples of themes, and these are, just themes that, we've considered over the years, and, many we've tried to put into our lives. And so these are, some examples. And then over here in the exercise part, what you're going to do is you're just going to, put in your top themes, and you can just put in 1, 2, 3 or more. And then you have to say, why is it important to you? And remember to think outside your 4 walls. And that's why I put this little picture over here. This was in accordance to one of our themes years ago about giving and generosity. And I always put think outside your 4 walls as to why this theme is important to you. And then C here is pick scripture for each theme, like we discussed. Write it on an index card, or nowadays you could just put that reminder on your phone and have it pop up in regular time throughout the day as encouragement. So that's habit number 2, selection. let's move on to habit number 3. This one is one of the habits that I absolutely love, and it's basically called identification. And basically, what we have to remember is that there's two parts to this process of identification. We have our spiritual gifts, and then we have our physical talents and strengths. So our spiritual gifts are the gifts that we are given by God, and we're created with those spiritual gifts. These are gifts that He gives us. And it's kind of like part of our DNA. Like if you look at spiritual gifts and physical talents and strengths, it's kind of like looking at the DNA we get from our mom and our dad. We have two different combinations or two different contributors to our overall DNA. And so see our identification in our spiritual gifts and our physical talents as just that. Okay? So spiritual gifts. This is the list of spiritual gifts, and there are many, many verses that talk about spiritual gifts and the importance of it, and I've listed those here. The spiritual gifts you'll find right here: leadership, administration, teaching, knowledge, wisdom, prophecy, discernment, exhortation, shepherding, faith, evangelism, apostleship, service and helps, mercy, gifts, giving, and hospitality. And there's the verses that go along with those giftings. Okay, so one of the things I would highly recommend is that you do your spiritual gift assessment. And what I've done is I've included the spiritual gift assessment inside our membership program. And so you'll be able to download that and print it out. And it's well worth your time, because when you know your spiritual gifts, you know how God's knit you together, you can really get the most out of who you are and whose you are by utilizing your physical gifts and your physical talents and your spiritual gifts. So I highly recommend doing the spiritual gift assessment. Now, on the other side is the physical strengths and talents. And one of the best places to go to understand the physical strengths and talents part is to go to Strength Finders. So go to strengthfinders.com, and I think it's about $15, and you could actually take this test, and I would highly recommend you do it. I've done it. My girls have done it, and we've done it a couple times. Girls did it probably, oh gosh, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and then they've done it again just recently. But it's really helpful because it helps you to understand what your physical talents and strengths are. And so now remember, there's a difference between a talent and a strength. A talent, when it fails to work hard, is not really used, so therefore it can't be a strength. So, we have to work on our talents to make them become a strength. So here's my top 5. My top 5 are strategic, learner, positivity, individualization, and belief. So I would go ahead and do that test as well. Here on this right side, the exercise, I've given you the spiritual gifts, right? You can check off which ones you have after doing your spiritual gift assessment. And here's your strengths and your talents. And there's actually 34 strengths and talents that Strength Finder assesses. And again, I would recommend that you go ahead and do that. And when you've done it, you've identified your strengths and your your gifts and your talents, just go ahead and check those boxes. Now, what I also want to share with you, this is really important. Now, when you harness and you utilize to your highest level your spiritual gift and your physical talents and your strength, you are a force to be reckoned with. So you can imagine that your ability to achieve the goals that God has for you is going to be, more. You're going to be able to accomplish that more by having and harnessing your gifts and your talents. So the enemy, our adversary, doesn't want that to happen. So what will happen is he will come at you and he'll challenge everything about you. So, for example, if one of your spiritual gifts is giving, being generous, the adversary will attack you spiritually with the spirit world of being stingy. Okay, so he's going to come against you with the exact opposite or a counterfeit of that spiritual gift or talent. So what we have to do is we have to pray against those things. So if one of your gifts is that you're an encourager, right? You're an encourager, like I am an encourager of men. The adversary will come against me with discouragement, despair, okay? So he can distract me from utilizing my spiritual gift to its greatest capacity. He'll do the same things against us in our talents. And so I have a document that I will put into the membership that goes over the different aspects, the leadership aspect, the administration aspect, and all of these things spiritually and physically. And I have the opposites or the counterfeits to those. And in fact, let me see if I can pull it up. If I can pull it up quickly, then I'll show you what that one looks like. Let me get that out of the way. I think that you'll find that resource to be really, really helpful. Let me pull that up. And here we go. Okay. This right here is the document that goes over the spiritual gift counterfeits. Okay, and then when you see this, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. You'll see that we have the spiritual gift and then we have the counterfeit. So I apologize for taking time on this one, but I think you're going to find it to be truly helpful because you can specifically pray against these things. So here's leadership, okay, and then here's some of the counterfeits, right? Powerlessness, right? I love this, incapacity, right? So these are the things that the adversary is going to come against us with, so he can decrease this right here. He can decrease our spiritual gift of leadership. And so what you'll find in this document, and it'll be inside of the training program, you're going to find all of these, okay? Remember, we're talking about exhortation or encouragement, right? Discouragement, distrust, doubt. These are all of the... Remember when the Bible tells us that we're not fighting a battle against flesh and blood in Ephesians chapter 6, but against the principalities and the spirit world, right? These are the names of those spirits that come against us. And so when we preemptively pray over these things, we take hold of those things. And remember, nothing formed against us can stand, as it says in Isaiah 54:17. So this one I'll put in there. This is the counterfeits to our spiritual gift. And then here are the counterfeits to our physical strengths and talents. Okay? Strategic, I told you my number one is strategic, right? And this is the positive side of it, right? Well, here's the negative side of it. Okay, I could be closed-minded. I could make quick decisions. Okay, so it's important to know the weaknesses of our strengths and the counterfeits of our spiritual gifts, so we can pray that God would help us to overcome those or to combat those. So, anyway, those will be in your resource area as well. And finally, let me show you real quick what the spiritual gift assessment looks like, because you'll find this inside the membership program as well. Won't take you more than 10 or 15 minutes to go through it. And when you do, you'll score it, and then based on your totals, you'll see which spiritual gifts that you have been given by God. Okay, so that is habit number 3 is identification. Okay, let's go to habit number 4, description. Okay, so defining our master goal list. So the importance of number 4, can't be overemphasized. In fact, where most programs start when they're doing goal setting programs, they actually start with habit number 4. So you can see that defining your goals is a part of it. It's a very important part of it. But when you look at it under the veil or the backdrop of those first 3 habits, you can see how much more powerful it is when you have godly goals and that you are accessing God's power to accomplish your goals. So there are 7 specific steps inside of describing, fully defining your goals. And so we're going to go through these, and I'm going to show you an example of how we use one of our master goal lists to actually do these 7 steps. So number 1 is the goal. What's the goal? Okay, I'm going to lose 17 pounds. That's great. Number 2, what's the completion date? Right? Adding the completion date to your goal increases your probability of achieving it. So I'm going to lose 17 pounds by March 15th of 2014. Now, of course, this is an old goal list, but you can see the point. Reminders. Setting in reminders as well as goal updates to your accountability partners will enhance your achievement of your goal. So do you have a reminder set? Okay. Priority. Okay. Back in, I think, the fundamentals, we talked about prioritizing a goal, right? And we have an A priority, B priority, C priority. We also have D's and E's. So an A priority is a goal that, if it's not accomplished, comes with a significant consequence. B is, if it's not accomplished, it comes with a mild to moderate consequence. C is a want to, not a have to, because it has no consequences if it's not accomplished. A D is something that we want to delegate, and an E is something that we want to eliminate. And so it doesn't mean they're not important, but we want to delegate it to someone else, or if it just seems like it's not going to be one that is a high priority, we can actually eliminate it. Because we have certain goals that really we don't really need to have on our goal lists. Then we've got our big rocks. Big rock, this is important. A big rock is something that is simply non-negotiable. Non-negotiable. Has to be accomplished. Okay? So you can see as we're coming across here what those things are. And then 6 is the frequency. Okay? So indicating the frequency of the activity is necessary to achieve the desired goal because you have to plan the time necessary to accomplish it. So you have to reverse engineer the time necessary for a particular goal. So is it a daily goal, right? A weekly? I mean, not a daily goal. Do we have to attack it daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly? Okay. Finally, number 7, I've spoke about Ephesians 3:20 in the past. Remember, other goal programs might call it like a stretch goal. I call it an Ephesians 3:20 goal. Because it's just immeasurably more than we can ever have hoped, asked, or imagined. So if it is, you throw that down in there. Okay, what I wanted to do is just take a couple of minutes to go over this goal achievement study. Okay, so again, I've studied a lot about goal achievements. Here's one study that I think you'll like. Because it just shows how simple it is, the things that we can do that sometimes we overlook, but it's really important that we look at kind of the outcomes of this goal. So there was of this study. So there's 147 participants, and they were put randomly into these 5 different groups, right? Group 1, they had unwritten goals, okay? Most people have unwritten goals, okay? In fact, in the study over here, you may have heard about this study, but it was a study in 1953 done by Yale, and although the study was a myth, the process of going through it found to be actually very helpful, and it was founded in this particular study here. So you have to, the first group was unwritten goals. The second group was written goals. The third group was written goals, and they had action commitments. Then group 4, written goals, action commitments, and they told a friend. Then group number 5, written goals, action commitments to a friend, and a progress report. So here's what happened. At the end of 4 weeks, the participants were asked to rate their progress. Okay, so the groups that had written goals, 2 through 5, right? They had written goals. They experienced the following outcomes when compared to group number 1, which, remember, unwritten goals, right? So they had increased number of total goals accomplished, greater variety of goals accomplished, higher goal achievement score, which is enhanced quality of the goal that they achieved. So the groups that had written their goals down accomplished more than the group that didn't have their goals written down. So here's the conclusion, right? Write your goals down, commit to your goals. It enhances your goal achievement. So what you're seeing here, okay, in this form here, This is our master goal list. And by the way, let me show you here, in chapter number 5, which we're going to cover next, I have all the resources for you in a way that you can photocopy and you can fill out. Okay? Let's come back here. So again, the key here is that we apply these plus some more principles, as you can see, to creating our master goal list. So my master goal list, and remember, I have this here for a reason. I believe I can, with God, accomplish these goals that He has for me. Okay? So that's the sheet that you'll use to go ahead and put your goals down. All right? Let's go to habit number 5, commitment. This one is so important. You know, oftentimes we say we have a goal, but it's really a wish or a want because we aren't willing to give it 100% commitment to achieve the goal. So the important part about this habit number 5, commitment, is that commitment is the conduit, right? Or the connection between your desire to achieve the goal and actually achieving the goal. Now, there are hundreds of quotes related to commitment and goals, and one of my absolute favorites is from Zig Ziglar. He says it right here. Most people that fail in their dreams, right, their dreams to accomplish their goals, they fail not from a lack of ability, but from a lack of commitment. Okay? So really important. So when looking at your commitment, there's a couple of questions that we have to, that will help to deepen the reason why we want to commit to it. Okay, and I incorporate these into my commitment part of our goals program. Okay, and the goal I will achieve. The key here is we have to look at what's my why. Okay. So my why for achieving the goal actually has to be greater than the what or the goal that I'm going to achieve. Because when our what is greater than our why, we get burned out. But when our why or our purpose behind our what is greater, then we have more fuel, more passion, and that we're encouraged and we can fight that battle against burnout. Okay? So here's... I found a little typo there. That should be quit smoking. And it was funny, as my daughter was going through this, she said, "Dad, did you smoke?" And I said, "No," but I just put it down here as a good example for somebody to achieve. And the reason that I put that down is, this is just a little aside, a personal story. I've lost my mom, my dad, and my grandmother all to lung cancer. My grandmother at 84, my mom at 71, and my dad at 68. So the reason why I put that down there is because I do want to speak to those people that are watching this program. And what you'll learn if you access the book Habitology, it's not finishing being written, but we're a good part through it. But one of the chapters I talk about my dad and smoking and all that stuff. But anyway, my dad smoked for 54 years, 3 packs a day, and the thing that happened to him was when my dad was diagnosed with lung cancer, he quit cold turkey, and he didn't pick up another cigarette for the last 11 months of his life. And knowing that he smoked over 1 million cigarettes, and cigarettes are one of the most difficult things to quit. Studies show that it's as difficult or more difficult than even, drugs or alcohol. The fact that he quit cold turkey spoke to me about, why do we start or stop habits, and oftentimes it's the fuel that you need is to quit that bad habit or start a good habit is really not all about you. It's about others that might be dependent upon you. So if you are a smoker, my heart goes out to you and to your family because I know how hard it is to quit. But if I could encourage you to do whatever it takes, and I know even if you have tried it before, try it again. Don't allow lung cancer to be the reason why you quit. People quit every day, and I fully believe that you can quit too. So again, what's your why? Very important. So describe what your why is. Okay. Here I put, my my why is that I have a passion to be with my girls and my grandkids, and to be alive for them. One of the greatest regrets my dad would have, if we can talk to him now, is that he never got a chance to meet his granddaughter, my daughter, Nicole. So next is you gotta, what's your commitment level? Okay, you gotta look at your commitment level, and I circled here a 10, so you're going to circle what your commitment level is, and if it's not a 10, why not? What will it take for you to get fully committed, 100% committed to that goal? Okay, and then finally, who's your accountability partner? Who are you going to call on when you're ready to give up on this goal? Okay, and then you fill that out. And then finally, you're going to sign it and date it. And I love what we put here. I'm absolutely, completely, 100% committed to achieving this goal. I will resist the temptation to quit when it gets tough, and I will remember my why, and I'll keep pushing through until I achieve this goal. One of my favorite guys in all the world is Nick Vujicic. He's the gentleman who's just amazing, and this is his book, Life Without Limits. And I love what he says here. I just hope people see that if God can do something beautiful with my broken pieces, then God truly has a plan for each and every one of us. And I fully agree he does. Love this guy. Also love Zig, and I love you all. And so, do me a favor and do yourself a favor. Sign here if you refuse to fail from lack of commitment, and then print this out and keep it handy. Okay, and then give it to maybe your accountability partner as a way of saying, I'm committing to these goals. Because remember, the goals that you're going to achieve are now godly goals. These are not goals that come without meaning or impact or significance. These are godly goals, and you're going to impact eternity because you're going to accomplish them. Okay, let's move on to habit number 6, planning. Planning is all about ensuring the resources necessary to accomplish the goals that you want to achieve. And there's a couple of different types of ways that you plan these resources. You got time, you got money, you got people. And here's what I found over the many years of not accomplishing my goals or underestimating the resources necessary to accomplish my goals is, I was put something called the 2X rule. I applied the 2X rule, especially when time and money are part of the resources that I need to get to my goal. So double the time and double the money, and you'll be close. So it's called the 2X rule, and here's an example. When budgeting for a vacation, if you think it's going to cost $1,000, budget 2. If you think it's going to take you a month to complete a project, make it 2. Make it 2 months. You'll be a lot closer in the end, trust me, and you'll be a lot less stressed if you do that. And you'll also find that syncing up your optimized schedule with your family is a helpful way to ensure that we are meeting our expectations. So anyway, so that's the 2X rule. Double the time, double the money, you'll be close. And then here's the optimized schedule. Optimized schedule, and I have an example over here. We've got daily, weekly, monthly. Okay, so here's an example of the monthly optimized schedule. And once again, you're going to see, let me scroll down, you're going to see right here, here's your the ones that you can put your optimized schedule in. Okay, so the monthly, you're just going to put the things that happen on each day. Okay, and the reason why this is different than just having a weekly schedule is because there are certain things that happen only once a month. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and you're going to want to fill out your optimized schedule, the monthly schedule, and then you're going to put your weekly and daily schedule on this one right here. Okay, so this will help you and your family and your accountability partner to know what you're going to do, how you're going to accomplish those goals that are on your list. Finally, habit number 7 is accountability and the power of partnerships. Now, remember that one of the foundational principles that we can't forget is that God is our number one partner. Remember, He made us, spiritual DNA. He has a plan for us, right? Jeremiah 29:11 says that, for I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, over us, plans to prosper us, not to harm us, plans to give us a hope and a future. Okay, so he has that, and he loves us. He loves us more than anybody else. So accountability in all areas of our lives are critical if we're going to stay the course and accomplish our goals. So my humble opinion is to have an accountability partner noted for each of the 5 areas of your life. So you can use this simple little form as a guide because it's helpful in organizing our accountability partners, and then you can share it with your partners as well. So here you've got personal, business, financial, relational, spiritual. You got the accountability partner, verse, phone number, address, when you meet, and the location. So remember that the power of the partnership is fully dependent on you being transparent with your partner, and that remember that we talked about why plans fail, why goals fail, right? As it says in Proverbs 15:22, I believe it says, plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed. So remember to put somebody in these areas, equip them, and empower them to hold you accountable to your goals. And you'll find that the power of that partnership really speaks to Proverbs 27:17, and that is, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another, or one woman might sharpen you as well, as my wife has been a great sharpener of me in my life, and one of the most blessed partnerships I can ever ask for. So thank you for joining me on this video where we went through all of the 7 habits. The next video we're going to go over the individual sheets and show you how to fill those out. Thank you once again for joining me. I love you for that, and look forward to seeing you on the next video.